Hi, this is Patricia Stepler with your Inside Power. And today I want to talk with you about money. And, the reason I'm doing this isn't that money is the most important thing in life, but we live in a society where everything is pretty much governed around money. And until that changes, it is very important for us to have money and to be able to utilize it in a way that will enable us to live a fuller life. So I don't want you to think that every time I talk about money, it's because, we want to hoard money. That's not the point. Most of my clients, however, want to earn more money. And when they struggle to earn more money, that's when they become really frustrated. And yet they have to learn and to figure out why money is important. So with your inside power, what we do is we help you to use those powers inside of you in order to attract the things into your life that you want. And when we can learn how to attract things into our life, then we can live the life that we truly want and live with the reality of what we want instead of maybe the reality that seems to be happening to us, because you do have the option to choose your own reality. So what I want you to think about is, how many times have you wanted something and it didn't happen? If you've been watching my last couple episodes, or if you go back to them, I have been on a once in a lifetime vacation with my husband. And it was one that we had planned on doing a year ago. And then with COVID, that didn't happen. And so it's been, over 3 weeks, about 3.5 weeks, we've been traveling. And I've done, I think, this will be my 4th episode actually, from a hotel room or from a cruise ship. What I want you to realize is that didn't happen until we made a decision. So one of the things you really have to look at when you want to earn money is making a decision, just like taking a trip is a decision. Until you decide to do it, you're not going to find all the means and the money available to you to actually take that trip. You first have to make a decision. The same thing happens when we talk about earning money. You have to make a decision that you're going to do it no matter what. Here's what happens to a lot of people, and I see this in clients time after time. They think they have to learn something. They have to learn this, they have to learn that, they have to figure out this program and take that program. And, they have to learn maybe how to use Facebook ads, maybe how to use LinkedIn Navigator, how to, there are things that you have to do. When in reality, to be truly successful, what you have to do is learn how to master your mind. Oftentimes, people think that mastering their mind is something they can put in a back burner until they learn something like how to do Facebook ads or how to make effective posts. When in actuality, it is the most important thing you can do is to figure out how to make the most of the power of your mind and to overcome the thinking that is actually keeping you blocked from the good that you desire. We have inside of us what are called paradigms. And without getting into a whole lot of information right now, because I've actually covered this in previous episodes, but inside our subconscious mind are these sets of behaviors, which we are going to just call a paradigm. And the paradigms control everything about us. And one of the paradigms we have is our self-image. And that is the largest paradigm we have. Well, that self-image actually controls our ability to earn money. It controls what we're going to do, the behaviors we're going to have. It controls virtually everything in our life. And so what we have to do is to learn to build a paradigm that is going to complement what we want, instead of having a paradigm which is actually working against us. So when we adopt a new paradigm, we have to adopt one that will help us to become the person we want to be. When I work with a client, one of the questions I'll ask them is, what's the most money you've ever earned? And it doesn't really matter what the amount is. What that tells me is where their thinking is. You see, a person who earns $50,000 does not think the same way as a person who earns $500,000. So knowing what your amount of money that you've earned, the most amount you've ever earned in your life, helps me to determine where your thinking is. So if you are earning the 50,000 and you really want to earn 500,000, you know as well as I do that you have to make some changes. That's not going to happen by just hoping or wishing. To go from 50,000 to 500,000 requires a shift in your paradigms. It requires you to become a different person than you are today. You have to start thinking like a person earning $500,000 instead of thinking like a person who earns 50,000. Now, that's not always an easy shift because these paradigms are so engraved in our mind because they've been there forever. And the older you are, the more difficult it is to change them, unfortunately. We have to realize that these paradigms have been programmed. It is programming, just like you program a computer. Your paradigms have programmed you to be the person that you are, to react the way you are, to behave the way you are. They have programmed you to believe in the amount of money that you can earn. And so until you change the programming, nothing much is going to happen. So you can learn all you want to learn about Facebook ads. And believe me, I fell down this same rabbit hole of trying to learn things instead of shifting my thinking and becoming the person I need to be. Because you see, when you shift your thinking and you change your ability to see the world in a different way, you start to run into the people, the resources, the things you absolutely need. And I have seen that in my own life, because like I said, I went down that rabbit hole of, oh, I think I need to learn how to do Facebook ads. When in actuality, after I spent tens of thousands of dollars learning how to do Facebook ads, which earned me zero money. Listen to that, tens of thousands of dollars, zero money. What I learned was the most important thing I can do is to not learn how to do Facebook ads, hire it out. Why did I need to spend tens of thousands of dollars figuring out how to do Facebook ads when it's so much easier just to hire somebody to do it? And if I used that money to hire somebody, I'd probably be further along. And had I not invested so much time and energy in trying to figure that out, I could have invested more time and energy in my own thinking. So once I started to shift that, I was like, well, that didn't work. What do I need to do now? You see, I started to work on me. And I started to look at, what do I want to do? What are the things that I'm good at? What are the things that I can do that can help more people? And as soon as I shifted that thought, the people, the resources I needed started to come into my life. See, it's a matter of shifting your thinking and adopting a new thought pattern. Now, sometimes we have negative and faulty programming in our mind, which has been there since we were little children, because you see, your paradigms have been so genetically, you actually have some things happening in your life. And as you were, it's actually in your DNA. And you start to do things, it's just like you look like your relatives because of the genetic components that make up who you are. The same thing happens with your mind. You've been programmed, and things will be said to you as a small child environmentally that enhance that programming that helps you become the person that you are. And all that gets programmed into you. And then, as you get a little older and you become more aware, you realize that maybe your family did not have a lot of money and you felt like earning money was a struggle, and it just seemed to be difficult. That's what I learned when I was a kid. Earning money was a struggle. My dad became very sick, and it became very, very difficult. And my mom had to go to work for the first time, as in earning money. And she had to do that, and it became a struggle. And it just seemed to always be a struggle. And, as long as that's our programming, then that's where our thinking is. And so then we think we have to work really hard. We have to work so hard because earning money is a struggle. So we have to work super, super hard in order to get anything in life. If that's where you're coming from, let me be clear. That is simply the programming you must shift. So negative and programming are why 70% of the population keep getting the same results. Now, for the last few years, I have been helping out a friend in her tax office. And one of the things that I remembered as she was training us to do this, she said, most people's income really doesn't change much from year to year. Their tax, liability, their taxes pretty much look the same year after year. And so after working on people's taxes for the last couple of years, that is so true. Very little changes. Sure, they may get a different job. They may have a different company. They may make, maybe $10,000 more, $15,000 more, but nothing really changes very significantly in the majority of people because their thinking is controlling their actions. You see, when you have those thought patterns in your subconscious mind controls what you do. So if you believe earning money is a struggle, if you believe it's difficult, if you believe that you are only capable of earning 50,000, even though your wish is to earn 500,000, if that's your belief system, that's where you stay. So the only way to alter your income is to alter your belief system. So keep in mind that virtually every behavior you have is habitual. There have been experts, scientists who have studied this, and they say somewhere between 95 and 97% of everything we do day in, day out is habitual. Now, that may seem like a huge amount to you, because when I first heard that number, I was like, oh my gosh, that's really, really high, right? And so when you think about it, even let's say you're doing a new task at work, so it may feel like it's a little different, but if you start to really analyze it, yes, it may be a new task, it may be a new client, but you're basically doing the same thing. So when it's that high, don't you think that's going to fall over into your ability to earn money when that's part of your paradigm? So in order to change anything, you have to change your thinking. So you must reclaim and reprogram your mind to think success instead of to think failure or struggle. So the person you are today does not have to be the person you are tomorrow. You have the choice, you have the ability to change your thinking and therefore change your results. Okay? So that should be your ultimate goal, is to reprogram your thinking. So you must do the things that 95% of the people will never do. I think I shared before with you, I was in a program with Darren Hardy, and he was talking about how only about 80% of people ever do anything in the lines of, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. 20% of people do anything in the lines of personal development. Only 20%. And out of that 20%, so that means 80% of the population never think about developing themselves in a personal way to improve themselves. They just drift through life. But out of that 20% that do something, 10% of that 20% are only doing it because their boss told them to. And that could be as high as 15%. So when you look at it, it's 5% of the world's population does anything on their own, invest their own time and their own money in order to become a better person. So when you talk about the 95% and the 5%, it's where it comes from. You see, if you want to be in the top 5% of people, you have to do the things that the top 5% people do. Too many people want the benefits of what the top 5% have, but they don't want to do any work. They just want to take from somebody else. That's not right. You do not have the right to take from somebody else because they have had the ambition to improve themselves. So if you want to be in that 5%, which you absolutely can be, you have to be able to do the things that those 5% do. Because that top 5% of the population, they don't think like the other 95%. And if you want to get to that top 5%, and anybody can do it, you must change your thinking. So you must do the things that those people will do. You must think the thoughts that people do. That's why you have to change who you are. You must become somebody different in order to obtain those goals. So you have the ability to master your mind. Nobody can control your mind. That's up to you. I believe his name is Viktor Frankl. He was a prisoner during World War II. He was Jewish, and he was sent to the concentration camps. And one thing he realized was that those people who their minds were weak and they allowed the Nazis and the people running the concentration camps to control them, most of them died. He learned how to control his mind because he knew it was the one thing that nobody could control. And he was able to survive that and live a life after being freed from the concentration camp. So most people, keep in mind, drift through life. As my friend and mentor, Bob Proctor, would say, most people tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely from birth to death. And when their heart stops beating, it's a mere formality. Well, we don't want that for you. We want you to have a great life and not drift or tiptoe through life, but to decide what it is you want and figure out how to create that kind of life that you want. So you need to have meaning and you have to have a purpose. Let's look at that word purpose. What is your purpose in life? Because you see, I believe that we have all been put here on earth with a purpose. Some of us get confused as to what that purpose is, and we drift toward things we just shouldn't be drifting towards. And you see this in some of the things that people will do. They have no purpose, and so therefore they just fall into anything. You need to figure out what your purpose is. What is the one thing that you were put here on this earth that's for you to do? You see, I believe that we all have one thing we're supposed to do. Now, can that change? That is something that people feel differently about. There are some people that think that you have one purpose in life and one purpose only. I believe that our purpose can change because there are different seasons of our life. When I was younger and I was raising my children, I felt like my purpose was to be a really good mom and to raise my kids so that they would be productive citizens of the world. And I believe that was my purpose, along with educating children. I always had a love in my heart for children. And therefore, I was a teacher. And I believe that I was to nurture the children I taught also, to try to help them lead more purposeful lives. Once my children grew up, I felt like I had a different purpose. Now I was not needing to be a mom, and that it was more time for me to spread my wings and to fly into different areas and see what I could do to make massive change in the world, which is when I started my own business. And I started working with people because what I felt was there was such a need for people to understand this information, and that I was part of a group of people that were going to get this information out to the world. Because people need to live lives with purpose and with meaning. Because when you're just drifting from one thing to another, it's emptiness. And that's where I feel a lot of people get into trouble, and they start to drift down the wrong pathway because they don't have a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning. So I felt that it was part of what I needed to do to help people discover who they're supposed to be. And when we discover who we're supposed to be, we can change the world in a very positive way. So you need to know your meaning and purpose. The other thing is you need to stretch your vision. We all have a vision of what we would like, but we need to make it bigger. In the programs I work with, we talk about the 3 types of goals. Type A goals are goals that you know how to do. They're things maybe you've already accomplished, and therefore they're not very exciting. And we need to have goals that just boggle our mind and that we don't know how we're going to do. We need to stretch them. So we talk about A-type goals, or goals that you've already done or you know are going to happen, and they're not difficult. Most businesses, these are the kind of goals people set. Why? Because most goals are tied to performance indicators, and to rise on the pay scale or to get that promotion, you need to have accomplished that goal. So we set goals that we know we can achieve so that we will look good to the boss. And then we have type B goals. B goals are ones where, okay, I have a new client coming in, and if I get that contract, I will make my goal. They are ones that maybe have a little bit, you're going up another step or so on the ladder, but they're still not inspiring goals. Type A and B goals, they don't inspire you. They don't cause you to be excited when you get up out of bed in the morning, because they're just, they're goals that you can do, or you don't have to do much to accomplish them. What you need to do is have the vision of a goal that you don't know how to achieve. Stretch your mind, build this person. If you are at $50,000 and you want to earn $500,000 next year, what do you need to change? What kind of things can get you that income? Now, I'll never forget the first time I met Bob Proctor. It was at a consultant training. And at this consultant training, he said to us consultants, now mind you, I had paid a fair amount of money to buy like a franchise in his business, to use his materials so that I could help clients, right? And so he's talking to us as consultants in our own business. And he says, the first thing you need to do is to make your annual income into a monthly income. Now, my mind was still as an educator. And I started thinking about that. Oh my gosh, like how much money would that take to turn my yearly income into monthly income? What would my annual income be? And I'm like, that's not possible. because even a superintendent in our school system doesn't make that kind of money. So there's no way I can do that. Now keep in mind, I am sitting in a room where I had paid a fair amount of money to become a consultant to build my own business. And he says that, and my thought immediately goes back to the fact that I'm on a pay schedule. And I kept thinking about that. I don't know really what he said after that for quite a while, because it took me a while to figure out, oh my gosh, here I am thinking as an employee instead of thinking as a businesswoman. I had a lot of changing to do. As long as I continued to think as an employee and continued to think of all the reasons why I could not turn my annual income into a monthly income, I was going to remain stuck. So I had to start stretching my mind. What does that look like? What kind of things would I do if my monthly income was now what I used to make in a year? What does that lifestyle look like? And so I had to build the possibilities. That's a C-type goal. That was stretching what I could do. And then you start breaking it down. Okay, so whatever that amount is, that's $50,000 a month instead of $15,000 a year. So if you're earning $50,000 a month, what kind of things do you need to do each week? Well, each week you'd have to earn $12,500. So what can I do each week in order to earn $12,500? I think I have that right. So anyway, what do I need to do today? What do I need to do tomorrow? What do I need to do this morning? What do I need to do this afternoon? You start breaking it down into smaller pieces and figuring out exactly what it is that you need to do. Then you can start to build an action plan. Okay, so in order to earn that $12,500 a week, what kind of things am I going to be selling? Am I going to be selling a program that's worth $12,500? What's that look like? Or am I going to be selling two programs that are $6,000? You have to figure that out. What does that look like? And then, okay, so how many people do I need to talk to each day in order to earn that amount of money? And how many people do I need to contact in order to be able to talk to that many people about what they need and how I can help them? So you have to start breaking things down into smaller pieces. When you start to break them down into smaller pieces, those actions now become doable. Then you need to become disciplined. Hopefully that's not a negative word to you. Discipline simply means giving yourself an order and following it. So you have to discipline your mind and discipline yourself to build a schedule where you're doing the things you need to do in order to achieve the results you need to achieve. Now, that is where the programs I have can help you, because I help people build the ideas of what they need and to keep them accountable so that they can profit from this information and they can change their own lives and control their own thinking and become masters of their own mind. Because once you become a master of your mind and you can build this and you can strategize and you can figure all this out, you will no longer be controlled by anybody else, because you will be controlling you. Now, I suggest that you go to my website, yourdreampower.com. And if you scroll down, I'm doing I always do some different events. It could be a workshop. It could be a one-day event. Click on some event, sign up for it, and join me in an in-depth environment where you can ask questions and so on, or just keep continuing to watch my show and to come on to the Q&A section where we will answer some of your questions so that you can be the person you need to be, and you can take your inside powers and turn them into reality. This is Patricia Stepler with Your Inside Power, where we are going to shift your thinking so you become the master of your own mind. Join me next week for the next episode, and we're going to continue this talk about money. See you then. Bye.